I woke to the sound of my own breathing struggling inside a cracked helmet, ragged, metallic, too fast. Cold seeped through the shattered edges of my exosuit like something alive, creeping beneath the skin, searching for a place to nest. The ground under me felt like fractured glass, but when my eyes finally focused, I realized the glass was a forest floor made of crystalline shards glowing faintly with lavender light. Every breath stirred a soft shimmer in the air. My HUD flickered in and out like it was trying to decide whether I was worth saving. Oxygen low, systems failing, comms offline, great. A perfect start to my day. I rolled onto my back and immediately regretted everything. A spear of pain shot beneath my ribs as if someone had tried to perform emergency surgery with a hammer. Interesting. At least I was alive, which, considering my dropship had pirouetted through the atmosphere in a flaming death spiral, counted as an achievement. I sat up slowly, surrounded by towering crystalline trees that curved inward like the ribs of some enormous creature. Sparks of static floated in the air, drifting lazily before fading. Nothing looked familiar, not a landmark, not a signature, not even a hint of human presence. Just alien silence. Something shifted at the far edge of the clearing. My instincts kicked in too late. I twisted sharply, slipped on the crystalline dust, and fell flat on my back, very dignified. A chorus of low hums rose around me, energy weapons powering up. Shapes emerged from the shimmering foliage, tall, elegant. Armored in plates etched with runic sigils that pulsed like slow-moving fireflies. Their helmets were long, smooth, with narrow horizontal slits that glowed amber. 6 of them at least, maybe more. I raised a hand weakly. Hi. Anyone speak English, galactic common, or interpretive mime? One of them stepped forward, and in perfect, crisp English replied, "You are injured and trespassing. Also, you smell like fear." Well, that was promising. They moved with smooth precision, no roughness, no hesitation. My weapons vanished in seconds. My cracked helmet was removed. A scanning device hovered near my ribs, beeped angrily, then a cold sting hit my neck. Pain dissolved instantly, replaced by the disturbing ability to taste the color green. Before I had time to argue, they lifted me, carried me into an obsidian-like ship shaped like a seashell turned inside out, and moments later the sky vanished into a blur of light. The capital or palace or cathedral, honestly I couldn't tell, rose before us like a hallucination carved from light. Towers folded in impossible angles. Walkways shimmered beneath our feet, shifting texture based on our steps. The air carried the scent of static storms and orchids. Then they brought me before her. The throne was a cascade of frozen liquid metal, shaped mid-motion. Upon it sat a figure so striking my brain needed a moment to reboot. Tall, silver-haired, her long, curved ears tipped with gold. Eyes like collapsing stars, bright, dark, ancient. The queen. She watched me with the expression of someone evaluating both a threat and a mystery. I tried to stand straight, failed, and ended up in a dignified half-slouch. "You are the human from the wreck," she said. "That's me," I replied. "Cade Mercer, professional crash enthusiast." She didn't smile, not even close. "Your injuries were extensive," she continued. 4 fractured ribs, internal bleeding, a wound on your side that appears uncommon. I blinked. Uncommon how? Because it glows after spicy food. She descended the throne with quiet, terrifying grace. Her guards tensed, but she didn't seem concerned. She gestured sharply. A medic projected a hologram above my side. My old scar, the one from Varipur, appeared as a jagged streak, except now it glowed in a pattern I had never seen. The queen froze. Her eyes widened just barely, but for someone like her, that might as well have been shouting. "That mark," she whispered, "impossible." I stared at the hologram. "This thing, it's just an old wound. I fell on part of my own gun, very glamorous story." "No," she said, stepping back as if the air had thickened. "That symbol is ancient. Sacred, lost." Her voice trembled ever so slightly. "It is the crest of the Skyborn, our vanished lineage." The room transformed. The guards stiffened. The air grew heavy, as if reality itself held its breath. She looked at me, not at my face, but at the scar, as though she had found a ghost wearing my skin. "You cannot be real," she whispered. I cleared my throat. "I've been called." The queen's stare felt like standing under a collapsing star. Silent, immense, inescapable. She stepped closer, close enough that the faint glow of her markings reflected off my cracked visor. Her guards shifted uneasily, but she lifted a hand, dismissing them with a flick of her fingers sharp enough to slice stone. She circled me once, slow and analytical, as if mapping every fracture in my soul. "The crest of the Skyborn has not been seen for generations. she said. It belonged to a lineage that vanished before our final collapse. I raised my hand cautiously. Okay, but what does that have to do with me? I'm pretty sure my family tree consists mostly of quiet farmers, loud mechanics, and one guy who got banned from 6 starports for punching a vending machine. She ignored me completely, which seemed to be a developing theme. A medic extended a scanning rod over my side. The hologram reshaped itself, zooming in, rotating the scar, highlighting layers beneath the skin I didn't know existed. The markings within the scar weren't random. They formed a sigil, curved lines intersecting arcs like a star map folded into a wound. The queen inhaled sharply. "Your wound mimics the ancient symbol perfectly," she murmured. "The odds of such a pattern forming by accident are non-existent." I said, "I've always been an overachiever in the things that shouldn't happen department." One of the guards murmured something in their language. The queen silenced him with a single glance. "This cannot be ignored," she said. Then to me, "You will come with me." I pointed vaguely at myself. "Me, personally, right now, do I get to vote?" "No." She turned and walked away, expecting me to follow like gravity itself obeyed her. 2 guards helped me stand. My ribs still protested, but with less enthusiasm than before. We moved through corridors that curved and folded like living architecture. Walls glowed softly as we passed, reacting to her presence. We arrived at a private chamber, far more ornate than the throne room. Light pooled from crystalline veins in the walls. Floating glyphs drifted in slow spirals near the ceiling. A massive circular window looked out into a violet sky streaked with plasma storms. A drone hovered in one corner, shaped like a polished sphere with an attitude problem. Its single blue optic flickered in disdain. "Analysis complete," it announced. Subject Mercer. 87% standard human. 12% anomalous strain consistent with inconvenient prophecy. I blinked. Sorry, what kind of prophecy? The queen stepped beside the drone. One believed by few, mocked by many. Our records tell of a last expedition, our final reach into the stars before we fell into isolation. They sought a blue world beyond the spiral arm. Her eyes flicked to me. "Your world." My mouth went dry. "You're saying your people reached Earth?" "We do not know," she said. "The ship vanished. Its passengers carried our most sacred genetic traits, the skyborne line, the Crest." I stared at the hologram of my scar. "And you think I'm descended from one of them?" "I do not think," she said softly. "I fear it, I hope for it." Something in her voice cracked on the last word. The drone chimed in unhelpfully. "Probability of direct lineage, high. Probability that this will complicate political stability, also high. Recommended action, panic." The queen shot the drone a glare sharp enough to bend metal. It floated backward a full meter. She turned back to me, expression unreadable. "We must confirm what you are. Preferably without dissecting me," I muttered. She actually paused. "We do not dissect living guests. That wording is a lot less comforting than you think it is." Ignoring me again, she gestured. The floor beneath us shifted, becoming a platform that lifted us through a vertical shaft filled with bioluminescent runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. As we ascended, she spoke without looking at me. "My people are fading. Technology fails. Divisions deepen. The loss of the skyborne line broke something in us, something we have never repaired." Her voice was steady, but I caught the faintest undertone of exhaustion, loneliness, responsibility that weighed more than armor. "So," I said quietly, "you think I might be a missing piece?" Her gaze flicked toward me briefly. "If the prophecy has truth, yes. And if it does." She hesitated. That was worse than any answer. The lift opened into a chamber that looked like a cathedral crossed with a star map, glimmering pillars, a wide circle carved with symbols, air humming with quiet memory. 9 masked figures stood in a ring, robes shimmering like liquid glass. "The High Seers," she said. One of them raised a hand and the air thickened. A vibration passed through my bones, then a voice inside my mind. "The scar awakens." The thread returns. The floor rippled with light, and suddenly my consciousness was yanked sideways. I saw stars forming, cities of crystal, a ship streaking through fire, a man with my eyes, my jawline, someone who wasn't me yet was. He clutched his side. The crest burned on his skin. A final message whispered through collapsing light. "To the blue world, carry our blood to safety." My breath hitched, the vision snapped. I staggered backward straight into someone's hands, the queen's. She steadied me, her grip was firm, real, grounding. "What did you see?" she asked. "My ancestor," I whispered. "He looked like me, he wasn't from Earth." The chamber fell silent. The queen released my arm slowly, her golden-tipped ears trembling just once, a small, involuntary sign I'd learned meant shock. "The prophecy lives," one seer intoned. I exhaled shakily. "Great. Does this prophecy come with dental—" They escorted me to what they called guest quarters, though it looked less like a bedroom and more like a philosophical concept visualized by a sentient architect. The walls shimmered with shifting blues and golds. The bed floated a few centimeters above the ground and occasionally hummed, as if trying to comfort me but unsure of my emotional settings. The drone followed me in, projecting diagnostic readouts like a nosy doctor. Heart rate elevated, respiration unstable, emotional state confused, anxious, mildly sarcastic. Mildly, I muttered, "Rude." "It is early in the cycle," it replied. The door sealed behind me, not locked but bordered by a glowing arc of energy that suggested walking through it would give me a new hairstyle and possibly a new skeleton. Not ideal. I sat on the floating bed. It shifted beneath me, adjusting density like it was trying to guess my preferred level of despair. A soft chime sounded. The wall didn't open, it peeled back, and the queen stepped inside, alone. Her presence filled the room like gravity. The lights dimmed as if the palace itself respected her mood. She carried a circular disk of light, glyphs drifting around it like lazy fish in a dark pond. "I trust your quarters are tolerable," she said. "They're great," I replied. "I once slept inside the carcass of a dead war beast. It snored. This is an upgrade." Her ear tips lifted a millimeter, a micro-expression I'd come to recognize as her version of almost smiling. She held out the disk. With a flick of her fingers, it expanded into a projection, a constellation spiraling outward from a central symbol. My scar. "This," she said, "is the sign of Ivar, the crest of the Skyborn. It was believed to mark the one who would restore the lost branches of my people." "Restore them how?" "We do not know. The prophecy was dismissed as myth." Her gaze drifted to me. "Until today." The room felt smaller. "What do you want from me?" I finally asked. She hesitated. The queen of an entire civilization paused because of me. "I want truth," she said quietly. "Answers and hope." That last word was barely audible, fragile human. Before I could respond, the drone burst into the room with zero awareness of tension. "Results uploaded," it announced. "Subject Mercer carries dormant genetic strands consistent with the Skyborn theorized genome. Also, his blood caffeine level is dangerously low. Recommend immediate intervention." "Not helping," I muttered. "Always helping," it argued. The queen dismissed the drone with a slight tilt of her head. It floated out, muttering something about underappreciation. She turned back to me. "There is a place we must go, a confirmation ritual not of belief but memory." "Memory?" "Yes, we have a chamber that stores the echoes of our past. If the Skyborn truly passed into your line, it will recognize you." The lights flickered as if the palace itself objected. "Is this dangerous?" I asked. "Only if you resist what you see." "Great," I said. "Emotional danger. My favorite kind." We walked through winding halls that rearranged themselves subtly, responding to her presence. When a panel lowered unexpectedly in front of me, she caught my arm without thinking, steadying me. Her hand was warm. Her grip strong. She released me quickly, but not before my pulse jumped. She pretended not to notice. We arrived at a massive archway carved with glowing glyphs. The chamber inside was vast, circular, its walls alive with shifting memories, faint whispers of lost voices. "This is the Hall of Echo," she said. 9 seers stood in a ring, their faces hidden behind fractal masks. When the queen entered, their robes shimmered. One raised a hand. The sign returns. The thread awakens. The blood remembers. The air thickened. The floor pulsed with light, and my vision shattered. I wasn't in the room anymore. I was standing on a ship of crystal metal tearing through a collapsing starfield. A figure stood before me, tall, luminous, bearing the crest burned into his skin. My skin, his voice echoed through my skull. "To the blue world." A battle raged, fire, light. A final message cast into the void, desperation, hope, then earth, a forest. A wounded man clutching his side as the crest burned. I tried to breathe. The vision dissolved like smoke. My knees buckled. Strong hands caught me again, hers. Her touch was different this time, not just steady, but grounding, present. "What did you see?" she asked, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "My ancestor," I whispered, "and he wasn't human." Her breath caught, her hands tightened slightly around my arms. "The prophecy is real," she murmured. The seers bowed in unison. "The Skyborn line persists. The crest lives." She drew back, studying. The corridors changed when danger approached. I didn't know how I knew that. Maybe the air thickened, maybe the lights dimmed a fraction, maybe the palace itself held its breath. But as soon as the drone announced the hostile vessel in orbit, everything felt tighter, sharper, awake. The queen walked ahead of me, her posture controlled, regal, deadly calm, the way a storm is calm right before it swallows a coastline. Guards formed around us, but she waved them aside. She wanted no buffer. Not tonight. Reclamation faction, I said, trying to keep up. Let me guess, they're not big fans of prophecy. They are zealots, she replied. They reject our ancient bloodlines. They reject anything that might bind us to the past. To them, the Skyborn legacy is a lie that weakens us. And if they find me, walking proof of their worst nightmare. Her gaze flicked toward me, golden-tipped ears tilting in something dangerously close to worry. They will erase you. We stepped into a command hall shaped like a spiraling amphitheater. Holographic maps hovered in the air, stars, defense grids, fleet positions. Advisors bowed deeply as she entered. Some glanced at me with curiosity, suspicion, even something harsher. The queen didn't let them linger on me long. The hostile vessel? She demanded. High orbit, an advisor replied. Pre-collapse fusion spirals, armed, tracking us. Communications. Silent. I cleared my throat. Could they know I'm here? No, the queen said instantly. Not unless the seers spoke out of turn, and they will not. The drone floated beside me, whispering like a bored accountant. Correction, they might. They enjoy dramatic revelations at inconvenient times. Please, I muttered, not helping. No one appreciates my honesty. The queen turned sharply. Enough. You will remain silent unless I request your input. The drone's optic dimmed in offended silence. Brief peace. She approached a large projection sphere at the center of the room. The hostile ship's silhouette appeared, jagged, angular, and pulsing with old fury. They should not be here, she murmured. I watched her in profile, sharp lines softened by the shifting glow. She looked unbreakable, and yet something about her shoulders spoke of exhaustion, pressure, fear she would never voice. Are they here for you? I asked. For what I represent, she said. For a people still grieving their own fall, for a throne they believe should have been destroyed long ago. And they don't know I exist. She didn't answer, her silence said enough. Okay, I said carefully. Then what's the plan? Before she could respond, the drone zipped between us, projecting a stream of data. Analysis. Their targeting systems are outdated, vulnerable, if we disrupt their neural mapping with cognitive loop interference. I blinked. Hold on, you want to confuse their ship's AI. Yes, the drone said, by overwhelming it with paradoxes, nonsense, humor. The queen raised a brow. Explain. The drone rotated to face her. Their AI is rigid, bound by literal interpretation. If introduced to contradictory stimuli, recursive logic failures will occur. The queen frowned. And how do you propose we introduce such stimuli? The drone pivoted toward me. Oh no, I said. Absolutely not, whatever you're thinking, no. The queen's eyes narrowed. Explain. The drone's tone brightened. The human emits an extraordinary quantity of illogical verbal noise, perfect for destabilization. I stared. So your plan is to weaponize my personality? Yes, the drone said. You are evolutionarily optimized for chaos. The queen studied me, not with disdain, not with amusement, something else. A flicker of realization. He may be effective, she murmured. That is not the word I would use, I said. She stepped closer. The room quieted instinctively. You would be transported onto their vessel, she said, briefly. Long enough to introduce a disruption spike into their core. Transported, I repeated. Like teleported. Yes. Is that safe? No. Ah, wonderful. She held my gaze. I would not risk this if there were another option. Something in her voice, thin, strained, made my stomach twist. This wasn't strategy, this was necessity, and she hated it. I swallowed. Then I'll do it. Her eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected me to agree so quickly. You do not understand the danger. You said they'll kill me if they find me anyway. Might as well be useful before that happens. Her chest rose with a sharp inhale. That is not acceptable. Too late, I said softly. Decision made. The room fell silent, not the fearful kind, but the kind that wraps around two people standing too close in a place where they shouldn't feel close at all. She stepped forward until only inches separated us. That faint static warmth radiated from her skin again, making the air shimmer. Cade Mercer, she said, voice low, if you fall into their hands, they will not simply kill you. They will unmake you. and with you everything we may recover. What? I didn't look away. And if I don't do this, your people fall, you fall, I can't accept that. A very small, very fragile expression passed. The teleport chamber looked like a cross between a medical scanner and a ritual altar, designed by someone who had only read vague descriptions of both. Runes spiraled beneath a crystalline platform, pulsing in a rhythm that made my teeth ache. Two technicians adjusted consoles with grim focus while the drone circled me, scanning like an anxious parent. "Stand still," it said. "Your molecules are rebellious enough without unnecessary movement." Fantastic, already inspiring confidence. "Do not worry," the drone continued. "If the teleportation fails, the resulting smear across subspace will be relatively contained." Not helping. I am always helping. Footsteps echoed behind us. The Queen entered. She didn't rush, didn't speak immediately. She simply stood before me, tall and composed, her long silver hair drifting in a gravity-disobedient shimmer. Her eyes found mine, and for a moment the chaos of alarms, technicians, and glowing runes faded. "You do not have to do this," she said quietly. "Yes, I do. You misunderstand." Her voice dropped even lower. "I do not give orders lightly, but this, I do not wish to command you into danger." "That's good," I said, "because I'm not going because you commanded me." "Then why?" I hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. "Because you asked." Her breath caught not visibly, not dramatically, but in a way only someone standing too close would notice. Her expression didn't break, but the tension around her eyes softened almost imperceptibly. She turned to the drone. "Ensure he returns." The drone made a static noise that sounded suspiciously like stress. "Ensuring survival is not within my design parameters." "It is now," she said. She stepped closer, closer than she ever had, until her hand lifted, hovering near my chest as if she wanted to touch me but wasn't sure she had the right. Her fingers brushed the fabric above my ribs, barely a whisper. "Return," she murmured. "I will." A technician coughed nervously. "We must begin." The Queen withdrew her hands slowly, reluctantly, and stepped back as I moved onto the platform. The drone floated above me, projecting a countdown. 3, 2, do not scream, it will scatter your atoms, 1. Light exploded around me like a star collapsing in reverse. The world twisted sideways. My body dissolved into static, reassembled incorrectly twice, then finally slammed into metal. I hit the floor hard. Gravity snapped on a second later, flipping the hallway 30 degrees in the wrong direction. I slid down what I assumed was a wall until I reached what might have been the floor. Alarms blared. Lights flashed. The hostile reclamation ship did not appreciate surprise visitors. The drone's voice crackled in my earpiece. "Status." "I think I arrived upright," I said, groaning, "but the ship disagrees." "Excellent, proceed to mainframe chamber." A panel opened in the ceiling, and a hostile drone dropped out, unfolding too many limbs and emitting a noise that suggested it despised my existence on a molecular level. "Oh, come on." It lunged. I rolled aside as a buzzsaw grazed the floor where my head had just been. My stunner fired, missed wildly, ricocheted, hit a pipe that hissed angrily, and finally hit the drone on the rebound. It collapsed in a sparking heap. "I meant to do that," I panted. "Statistically unlikely," the drone said. "Continue." The corridor tilted again. I stumbled toward the intersection, guided by the pulsing beacon on my wrist. Everything smelled like burned ozone and bad decisions. "You are nearing the core," the drone buzzed. "Be aware, the ship's AI is ancient, rigid, and intolerant of contradiction." So basically my high school math teacher. Precisely. Overload begins once you plug in the spike. I reached a circular chamber filled with rotating pylons and a glowing orb, like a miniature, furious sun trapped in a cage. The AI's voice boomed through the walls. Unidentified organic. "State purpose." "Oh boy," I muttered. "Here we go." I lifted the spike. A disk encoded with paradox loops, recursive humor, contradictory definitions, and according to the drone, 5 hours of human stand-up comedy of questionable quality. "That purpose," I said, "is an illusion created by breakfast." The AI paused. "Clarify. You ever wonder why the word building refers to something already built?" I asked. Static rippled across the chamber. "Logic anomaly detected." I plugged the disk into the core. The AI convulsed. Lights flickered. The ship groaned. "Paradox, why is banana both a noun and a feeling?" "Brace yourself," the drone muttered. The pylons erupted in a cascade of blue sparks. The AI's voice dissolved into a glitchy shriek. Rebooting humor drivers, initiating comedic response. What is the deal with ionic lances? That's my cue. I sprinted for the exit as the chamber destabilized. A pressure wave chased me down the corridor. I literally dove toward the extraction beacon. Now, I shouted, reality folded, the world yanked backward. Then slammed me face first into polished palace stone. I groaned into the floor. I hate teleportation. You survived, the drone said, sounding both surprised and slightly disappointed. Footsteps rushed toward me, the queen. She knelt beside me, the queen, her hands hovering before finally, slowly touching my jaw to tilt my face upward, searching me for injuries, not as a ruler but as someone who cared far too much. Cade, she breathed, relief slipping. The palace felt different after the battle. Not louder, just awake. As if the walls themselves had decided I was no longer an intruder but a variable in the story they'd been waiting centuries to resume. Light followed me gently, almost curiously. Even the doors opened a fraction faster, as though the building had opinions now. Or maybe I was imagining it. The queen walked ahead of me through the long, crystalline hallway toward the observation deck. She hadn't said much since the teleport. She was composed again, regal again, the emotional cracks sealed beneath layers of duty. But every so often her pace slowed, like she was checking whether I was still behind her. She would never admit to that. The drone bobbed beside us, projecting a feed of the hostile vessel drifting in orbit. The reclamation ship remains disabled, it droned. Engines frozen, weapons offline. AI attempting amateur comedy routine, quality unstable. Will they recover? I asked. Yes, the queen said, but not before they question everything they believe. We stepped onto the balcony. Below us, the capital city shimmered, crystalline spires rising like frozen waves, the sky a soft violet storm, the air humming with quiet anticipation. Above, the hostile ship floated wounded but alive, like a predator forced to reconsider its hunt. They have agreed to send delegates, she said, for peace talks. For understanding, she corrected. Peace is a result, not a request. I leaned on the railing. My ribs ached, but in the manageable, still alive kind of way. And what do they want to understand exactly? You, her voice softened, what you signify. I swallowed, and what do you think I signify? She didn't answer immediately. Wind brushed her silver hair into a soft arc. She stared at the horizon, eyes reflecting storms older than my entire species. You are a fracture, she said. A disruption, a reminder. Then more quietly, and proof that our past did not end, it survived. I let the silence sit between us. It wasn't uncomfortable, it felt necessary. Does that make me dangerous? I asked. Yes, she said honestly, but not to us. Something in my chest tightened. Not fear, not pride, but a strange, expanding awareness. Of her, of this place, of the weight I hadn't asked for but somehow understood. Why haven't you asked about Earth? She asked suddenly. I figured you'd de-ask when you were ready. Her eyes narrowed slightly, studying me the way she studied sacred artifacts. Careful, reverent, wary. Tell me, she said, and I did, not everything, just enough. The oceans, the crowded cities, the way humans yell at broken vending machines and build entire friendships around shared trauma. She listened with a stillness that felt ceremonial, like every word I said rewrote something in her understanding of the universe. And you would return if you had the chance? She asked. The question hit deeper than I expected. I turned it over carefully, thought about my tiny apartment, the cafeteria food, the long rotations, the people I'd lost, the people who had lost me. Finally, I said, maybe I already left Earth before I even realized it. She blinked slowly once. It was the most vulnerable expression she'd shown since I'd met her. You have changed the room, she said quietly. What room? Every room you enter. She stepped away from the railing, standing at full height. She looked less like a queen at that moment and more like someone who'd been carrying an impossible burden alone for too long. I must ask something of you, she said. I straightened. Anything. I want to rebuild the accord my brother believed in, she said. Not as empire, not as dominion, as alliance with Earth, with others, with hope. She extended a small data pad, a glowing sigil pulsed on its surface. You would be our envoy. Me, I blinked. I don't even know what fork to use at diplomatic dinners. That is precisely why, she said. You speak without fear, without pretense. You unmake barriers others cling to. I stared at the data pad. You sure you want me representing your entire civilization? Her gaze held mine, steady, absolute. You carry the blood of our skyborn, she said. and the heart of something rarer. Her voice dropped, someone I trust. That last part landed harder than any prophecy. And what do I call myself? Envoy Mercer, ambassador of accidentally being here. She stepped closer until her reflection merged with mine in the datapad's surface. You already have a title, she said, one older than this place. I raised a brow. Oh, and what's that? Her eyes softened, warmth without vulnerability, royalty without distance. The bearer of the crest, she said, the one who returns the thread. I swallowed hard. That's a lot. She reached out, hesitant at first, then placed her hand lightly on my chest above the scar beneath my uniform. Her touch was feather-soft yet sure. It is not destiny, she said. It is choice. For a heartbeat, we stood there, the universe quieting around us. Then she stepped back, but not far, and held out her hand, palm up, offering a beginning rather than an order. So, she said softly, will you walk this path with me? I looked at her hand, then her face, then the sky where a broken warship drifted